I want to thank the organizers of the Endocrine Society for giving me a chance to participate in the Career Development Workshop and to talk to our graduating fellows. I will start with a quote from JAMA in 1906, which said that one of the ways in which medical schools have failed is in graduating students into professional life without giving them the slightest idea about the economics of medicine. A century has gone by. We are in the middle of a transition where traditional methods of reimbursement based on RVU or fee-for-service is going to go away, and we are looking towards a value-based service. It is time for physicians and endocrinologists to engage with each other and with our prospective employers, so together we can walk into another century of light rather than darkness. One of the first things required is to develop a practice management plan. 20 years ago, a graduating fellow could either join academia or a government practice or private practice. Private practice is not synonymous with autonomy. On one hand, you can join a health maintenance organization or an HMO where there is limited autonomy. On the other hand, you can opt for a solo practice or group practice that gives you a high level of autonomy. But there are also hybrid models in between, and these models include integrated health delivery systems, provider service agreements, and so on. These hybrid models give a variable level of autonomy. It is important for a graduating fellow to understand the kind of practice they are looking at so they can negotiate their position, understand their autonomy, and be more aware of the market factors that can eventually impact their practice. The next step is to understand the economic piece. In our current fee-for-service system, the unit of productivity is measured in the form of work RVUs or work relative value units. Each RVU has three components: a component that belongs to the provider's work, a second component that reflects the practice expenses, and a third component that is meant for malpractice insurance. For example, a common outpatient RVU code for follow-up is 99214. This code has a numerical weight of 2.53. Out of this, 1.42 belongs to the provider. If a conversion factor is applied to the 1.42, we can get the dollar amount for the provider for that specific code. I recommend that physicians keep a simple Excel spreadsheet that gives them an idea of the RVUs that they generate on a day-to-day basis, so they are constantly aware of their productivity. The dollar amount calculated based on the RVU does not directly translate into a paycheck. To understand this gap, there are different components to be identified. We have to understand the difference between percentage charges and percentage collection. There is a time difference between the charges that are applied and the collections that are received. Once the collections are received, there is distribution for a base salary, distribution for benefits, and then distribution for bonus, and a certain amount is kept aside for profit. Next, we move into the physician-patient encounter. This is the encounter that reflects the training that the physician has obtained. And a physician can think about everything that they need as they interact with their patients to make it a successful encounter. This varies from their office space, the computer available, the kind of electronic health record, the medical assistant, the scheduler, and so on. Now, once a physician has come to a point that they have a clear understanding of their practice management plan, the economics or the finances that are involved in how their salary and compensation is going to get calculated, and also an understanding of what their day-to-day life is going to be like as they see patients, they are now able to proactively engage in that contract negotiation. We should negotiate with a sense of mutual benefit, fairness, and respect. Set a strategy. Prioritize what you want. Negotiate the most important items on your list. Once most of the bargaining is done, you can always come back to some of the other topics that may still be bothering you. And eventually, get a legal counsel and you have to sign on the dotted line. Don't expect the lawyer to take responsibility for the signature. It is yours, and you have to be fully aware of all the components in the contract before you sign on it. Many newly employed physicians are quickly learning that there are aspects to their practice that they had not thought of at the time that they signed their contract. They are quickly realizing the lack of autonomy. They have already signed on the contract and they feel bound by it. This leads to physician dissatisfaction and turnover. For this reason, I suggest that physicians have an opportunity to sit down and review their contract, perhaps at the end of 3 years of employment. This will allow the physician to voice their concerns, to have their contract reviewed or renewed, and this in the long term will lead to better physician satisfaction and physician retention. From an employer perspective, it is gainful to retain your physician and to retain satisfied physicians. In order to achieve this, it would be worthwhile to being a little transparent from the financial aspect with the new employee. In addition, an opportunity to hear them and a freedom to maybe review their contract at the end of 3 years would go a long way. I hope this presentation has been helpful and has given some valuable tips for our graduating fellows. I would also strongly encourage endocrine fellows to engage and come to this discussion and this presentation early on in their fellowship rather than waiting till their final year of graduation. It is good that this workshop is offered every year through the Endocrine Society, so it would be great to take full advantage of it.